Hey everyone, I'm Edwin, and this is my first cybersecurity walkthrough. Today I'm going to be going through the Active Directory Basics room on TryHackMe. This room is designed to help beginners understand how Active Directory works, which is a pretty critical part of most enterprise networks. I'm documenting my learning process as I work towards a career in cybersecurity. Currently, as of today, I am CompTIA A Plus certified, working on my Networks Plus, and I'm going to be using these videos to track my progress, share what I've learned, and hopefully help others who are just starting out too. So I already have the sandbox open already just because it takes a while to boot up. We're going to be starting on task 1, which is introduction. So it says Microsoft's Active Directory is the backbone of the corporate world. It simplifies the management of devices and users within a corporate environment. In this room, we'll take a deep dive into the essential components of Active Directory. The room objectives. In this room, we will learn about Active Directory and will become familiar with the following topics. What Active Directory is, what an Active Directory domain is, what components go into an Active Directory domain, forest and domain trust, and much more. Room prerequisites, I've done this already, so I'm gonna complete that. I'm gonna go to task 2. So this one usually requires you to open up the machine, which I already have open. It's okay. So it says picture yourself administering a small business network with only 5 computers and 5 employees. In such a tiny network, you will probably be able to configure each computer separately without a problem. You will manually log into each computer, create users for whoever will use them, and make specific configurations for each employer's accounts. If a user's computer stopped working, you will probably go to their place and fix their computer on site. While this sounds like a very relaxed lifestyle, let's suppose your business grows and now has 157 computers and 320 different users located across 4 different offices. Would you still be able to manage each computer as a separate entity, manually configure policies for each of the users across the network, and provide on-site support for everyone? The answer is most likely not. To overcome these limitations, we can use a Windows domain. Simply put, a Windows domain is a group of users and computers under the administration of a given business. The main idea behind a domain is to centralize the administration of common components of a Windows computer network in a single repository called Active Directory. The server that runs the Active Directory services is known as a domain controller. Okay, so here we have, I guess, the Windows logo, domain controller, which I guess deals with the file server, database server, desktops, and workstations. The main advantages of having a configured Windows domain are centralized identity management. All users across the network can be configured from Active Directory with minimum effort. Managing security policies. You can configure security policies directly from Active Directory and apply them to users and computers across the network as needed. A real world example. Okay, if this sounds a bit confusing, chances are you have already interacted with a Windows domain at some point in your school, university, or work. In school, university networks, you will often be provided with a username and password that you can use on any of the computers available on campus. Your credentials are valid for all machines because whenever you input them on a machine, it will forward the authentication process back to the Active Directory, where your credentials will be checked. Thanks to Active Directory, your credentials don't need to exist in each machine and are available throughout the network. Active Directory is also the component that allows your school/university to restrict you from accessing the control panel on your school/university machines. Policies will usually be deployed throughout the network so you don't have to administer privileges over those computers. So it says, welcome to TryHackMe Inc. During this task, we'll assume the role of the new IT admin at THM Inc. As our first task, we have been asked to review the current domain THM local and do some additional configurations. You will have administrative credentials over a pre-configured domain controller to do the task. Be sure to start the machine below as now and use the same machine for all tasks. This should open a machine in your browser. Should you prefer to connect to it via RDP, you can use the following credentials. In a Windows domain, credentials are stored in a central policy called domain controller. Not domain controller. Active Directory. Name of the room. This is the domain controller. The server in charge of running. The core of any Windows domain is the Active Directory Domain Service, ADDS. This service acts as a catalog that holds the information of all of the objects that exist in your network, amongst many objects supported by Active Directory. We have users, groups, machines, printers, shares, and many others. Let's look at some of them. So users. Users are some of the most common object types in Active Directory. Users are one of the known objects known as security principals, meaning that they can be authenticated by the domain and be assigned privileges over resources like files or printers. You can say that as that a security principal is an object that can act upon resources in the network. Users can be used to represent two types of entities. People. Users who generally represent persons in your organizations that need access to the network, like employees. Services. You can also define users to be services to be used by services like IIS or MSS SQL. Every single service requires a user to run, but service users are different from regular users as they will only have the privileges needed to run their specific service. Machines. Machines are another type of object within the Active Directory. For every computer that joins the Active Directory domain, a machine object will be created. Machines are also considered security principal and are assigned an account just as any other regular user. This account has somewhat limited rights within the domain itself. The machine accounts themselves as local administrators on the assigned computer. They are generally not supposed to be accessed by anyone except for the computer itself. But as with any other account, if you have the password, you can log in to use it. Machine note. Machine account passwords are automatically rotated out and are generally comprised of 120 random characters. Identifying machine accounts is relatively easy. They follow a specific naming scheme. The machine account name is in the computer's name followed by a $sign. For example, a machine named DC01 will have a machine account called DC01 with a $sign at the end. Security groups. If you're familiar with Windows, you probably know that you can define user groups to assign access rights to files or other resources to entire groups instead of single users. This allows for better manageability as you can add users to an existing group, and they will automatically inherit all the group's privileges. Security groups are also considered security principals and therefore can have privileges over resources over the network. Groups can have both users and machines as members. If needed, groups can include other groups as well. Several groups are created by default in a domain that can be used to grant special privileges to users. As an example, here are some of the most important groups in a domain. Okay, so we have quite a few. Let's go over these. Domain admins. Users of this group have administrative privileges over the entire domain by default. They can administer any computer on the domain, including the domain controllers. Server operators. Users in this group can administer domain controllers. They cannot change any administrative group memberships. Backup operators. Users in this group are allowed to access any file, ignoring their permissions. They are used to perform backups of data on computers. We have account operators. Users in this group can create or modify other accounts in the domain. Domain users includes all existing user accounts in the domain. Domain computers, I'm assuming it's the same thing, includes all the existing computers in the domain. Domain controllers includes all the existing domain controllers in the domain. You can complete, let's not click on that yet. To configure users, groups, or machines in Active Directory, we need to log into the main controller and run Active Directory users and computers from the start menu. So let's open that up. Go. This will open up a window where you can see the hierarchy of users. components, and groups that exist in the domain. These objects are organized in organizational units, which are container objects that allow you to classify users and machines. OUs are mainly used to define sets of users with similar policy and requirements. The people in the sales department of your organization are likely to have a different set of policies applied rather than people in IT. For example, keep in mind that a user can only be a part of a single OU of a time, organizational unit at a time. Okay. So with sales. Okay. Let's see what's in these organizational units. I guess nothing really. The only one that has anything is a THM folder, which has a couple of people in there. Okay, I see a lot more. These are the computers, main controllers, Activate 3 basics. Okay, let's leave this alone for now. Checking our machine, we can see that there's already an OU called THM with 4 child organizational units for the IT, management, marketing, and sales departments. We have IT management, marketing, research, development, and sales. Ooh, we're gonna. Okay. It is very typical to see organizational units mimic the business structure, as it allows for efficiency deploying baseline policies that apply to entire departments. Remember that while this would be in the expected model of most of the time, you can define organizational units arbitrarily. Feel free to right click the THM organizational unit and create a new OU under it called students. There you go. That. If you open any organizational units, you can see that users they contain and prefer simple tasks like creating, deleting, or modifying them as needed. You can also reset password if needed. Pretty useful for the help desk. Okay. You probably noticed there are other default containers apart from the THM organizational unit. These containers are created by Windows automatically and contain the following. So we have bulletin. So these are the ones that are created by Microsoft right here. Bulletin, computers, domain controllers. We have managed services account. Users down here. Okay, this one's empty, but I'm not sure if that's created by Microsoft. Okay, so bulletin contains default groups available to any Windows host. Computers, any machine joining the network will be put here by default, and you can move them if needed. We have domain controllers that contain the default organizational unit that contains the domain controllers in your network. You have users, obviously, it's exactly just what it is, users. Manage service accounts, holds accounts used by services in your Windows domain. Let's check that out. Oh, there's nothing there. Okay. Security groups versus organizational units. You're probably wondering why we have both groups and organizational units. While both are used to classify users and computers, their purposes are entirely different. Organizational units are handy for applying policies to users and computers, which include specific configurations that pertain to sets of users depending on the particular role in the enterprise. Remember, a user can only be a member of a single organizational unit at a time, as it wouldn't make sense to try and apply 2 different sets of policies to a single user. Security groups, on the other hand, are used to grant permissions over resources. For example, you will use groups if you want to allow some users to access a shared folder or network printer. A user can be part of many groups, which is needed to grant access to multiple resources. Okay, so I guess organizational units kind of is like you don't want certain people to have certain privileges, so you keep them in there, as opposed to security groups, which is kind of like you're granting them well, exactly what it says. You grant permissions over resources, so if you want them to allow to have access to certain things, you could put them in that group to have access to it, but they would still be limited in what they're able to do because of their organizational unit. Okay. Which group normally administrates all computer and resources in a domain? Let's look up. I think it's domain. Be the name of the machine account associated with a machine named Tom PC. So the name usually has a dollar sign after. Okay. Suppose our company creates a new department for quality assurance. What type of containers should we use to group all quality assurance users so that policies can be applied consistently? Organization. Okay. First task as the new domain administrator is to check the existing Active Directory organizational units and users. Here's some recent changes have happened to the business. You have been given the following organizational chart and are expected to make changes to the Active Directory to match it. You have Daniel as general manager. We have marketing for Mark, sales Sophie and Thomas, IT is Philip, Mary, and Claire. First thing you should notice is that there is an additional department organizational unit in your current Active Directory. Configuration that doesn't appear in the chart. We've been told it was closed due to budget cuts and should be removed from the domain. Try to right click and delete the organization and you will get the following error. Okay. By default, organizational units are protected against accidental deletion. To delete the organizational unit, we need to enable the advanced features menu. Okay. View, advanced features. I don't think so. This will show you some additional containers and enable you to disable the accidental deletion protection. To do so, right click on the organizational unit, go to properties, you will find a checkbox in the object tab to disable protection. Be sure to uncheck the box, try deleting the OU again, and you'll be prompted to confirm that you want to delete the OU. So let's see. Okay. So then let's try now. It's deleted. Okay. Okay. After deleting the extra organizational unit, oh, okay. That's what I want to do. Management, marketing, sales, IT. Management, marketing, sales, IT. So this one, I want to delete this one. But again, it won't let me. So we're gonna go back, go to properties, go to object, apply that. Research and development gets deleted. Okay. Create and delete users as needed to match them. So we're gonna have management. We have Daniel. Okay, he's there. I'm gonna go to IT. Philip, Mary, Claire. They're all there. Marketing. We have Mark. Sales. Sophie and Thomas. So Christine is no longer there. Robert is okay. Delegation. One of the nice things you can do in Active Directory is to give specific users some control over organizational units. This process is known as delegation and allows you to grant users specific privileges to perform advanced tasks on organizational units without needing a domain administrator to set up. Starting to step in. One of the most common use cases for this is granting IT support the privileges to reset other low privilege users' passwords. According to our organizational chart, Philip is in charge of IT support. So we'd probably want to delegate control of resetting passwords over the sales, marketing, and management of organizational units to him. For this example, we would delegate control over the sales organizational units to Philip. To delegate control over you can right click it, delegate control. So we're going to look for IT, Philip. Delegate control. Weird. Okay. So click on the one that I want. So I'm going to click on sales because I want to delegate control to somebody. It says to avoid mistyping me, like for electric and hates by users and groups. Okay. Let's see. Add Philip. Check names. That's Philip. Next. And since we want him to reset use passwords, let's check what else. Create, delete, and manage user accounts. Okay, read all user information. That's crazy. Create, delete, and manage groups. Modify the membership. Manage policy links. Generate results instead of policy. Generate results. Oh, okay, so planning logging out, whatever that is. Create, delete, and manage in-net organization person accounts. Reset passwords, enforce password change, add next login. Oh, okay. Read all in-net organization person information. Well, we just want this one for now. And let's finish. Okay. Now let's use Philip's account to try and reset Sophie's passwords. Use as the user and specify you want to log into the user Philip on the track. Currently administrator. Let's see. Interesting. Oh, I'm using. Okay. Oops. Hmm. See if I can sign out. Maybe fill up as another account. He's not. Let's see. Let's see. Right. So I had a bit of a connection issue, which is why I guess my sandbox was acting a little slow, but we got it back up and running. So where we left off was trying to RDP into Philip's account. Try and change the password here for Sophie. So let's see. P command line. So I had to Google it because I just didn't know it, but it's okay. That's what we do. So we had to use our desktop with the username and the password. The G is for, I guess, resolution, and the IP address. So we can go back to that. Our desktop. I'm gonna put username Philip, password capital C L 8, and the IP address is gonna be 10 175 181. Let's see what happens. It says no. It's good. Maybe base. Use THM. Okay. Let's try that again. Capital C. Okay, good here. I'm tempted to go to, yeah, let's try that. See if it's true. Active Directory. Computers. Admin. So it doesn't let you. Yep, just like it says here. So it wants us to use this prompt on PowerShell. So it's gonna be set AD Active Directory account password for Sophie. Set new password. That no, that matters. Read host your string prompt password. Password. Oh, yes. 1, 2, 3. There's more. Ah, okay. The password. Close that hyphen. Slash verbose. Let's try that now. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Invalid argument. Let's check it one more time. Make sure I got everything correct. Set slash ADA account password. Oh, the P isn't capitalized there. Maybe it is case sensitive. Word, Sophie. Words. That's what I did. Let's try 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Not meet the length and complexity, so probably has 10 minimum, 8 minimum. Let's do A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. Still not, so let's try something longer. The wire of my mouse. Okay. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Let me try and actually use, like, not my real password, but a real password. A, B, C, D, E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Weird. Let me read this actually. Sophie, password complexity exception, fully qualified or ID. Password does not meet the length complexity or history requirement of the domain. At line 1, character 1. What does that mean? How many characters is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9. Well, seeing as Claire 2008, something similar. Let's do Philip. THM. 2008. Well, I'm not getting a negative, so maybe it's working. Okay. Is it allowing me to type? Oh, maybe it wants me to. I'll repeat it. Performing the operation. Oh, okay. Interesting. It is what it is. But let's try. Let's just see if it worked. Oh, just flat out close that for me, huh? Well, we're gonna do the same command and then just change it to. We're gonna change this to THM. I'm gonna change it to Claire. Sophie. I'm gonna change it to Philip 2008. And it worked actually. And we have a flag. THM. Okay. Let's actually just copy paste that. Okay. Paste. Process of granting privileges to a user over some organizational unit or AD is called, I think it was elevation or escalation? Delegation. Okay. Camera up. Managing computers and Active Directory. Let's clear that. Close that. Let's get out of here. Okay. By default, all the machines that join a domain except for the domain controllers will be put in a container called computers. If we check our domain controllers, we will see that some devices are already here. Okay, we see the computers, we can see some servers, some laptops, some PCs corresponding to the users in our network. Having all of our devices there is not the best idea, since it is very likely that you want different policies for your servers and the machines than regular users use on a daily basis. Okay. While there's no golden rule how to organize a machine, an excellent starting point is integrating devices according to their use. In general, you expect to see devices divided into at least the following categories: workstations, servers, and domain controllers. Workstations are the most common devices in the Active Directory domain. Each user in the domain will be likely logging into a workstation. This is the device that we use to do the work or normal browsing activities. These devices should never have a privileged user sign into them. Okay, that makes sense. Servers. Second most common device within Active Directory domain. Servers are generally used to provide services to users or other users. Okay. We have domain controllers are the third most common device in the Active Directory domain. DCs allow you to manage the Active Directory domain. These devices are often deemed the most sensitive devices within the network as they contain hashed passwords for all user accounts within the environment. Since we are tidying up our Active Directory, let's create two separate OUs for. Okay, let's open that. We'll be creating them directly on THM local. THM. In the end, you should finally have the structure. Workstation and servers. Okay, so create it. Stations. Unit. We got servers. Computers, right? Now let's move the personal computers and laptops to the workstations. Oh, so I drag. I can't drag. Okay. How do I highlight my dome? Cool. Control. So we got laptop, PCs. I'm gonna move those all to workstations. Move current. Yeah, that's so it's workstations. After organizing the available computers, how many ended up in the workstations OU? So we got 4, 3, 7. Is it recommended to separate OUs for servers and workstations? Yes. I'm sure this is just like for educational purposes, but I'm just wondering if you would put laptops in a different environment, organizational unit, I would say, because I guess they'd have to VPN in depending on what kind of work it gets done. Uh, but let's continue. So group policies. So far we have organized users and computers in OUs for the sake of it. But the main idea behind this is to deploy different policies for each OU individually. That way we can push different configurations and security baselines to users depending on their department. Windows manages such policies to group policy objects. GPOs are simply a collection of settings that can be applied to OUs. GPOs can contain policies aimed at either users or computers, allowing you to set a baseline on specific machine and entities. To configure GPOs, you can use the GP management tool available from the start menu. Let's close that up. Management. First thing you will see when opening it is your complete OU hierarchy. Configure group policies. First create the GPO policy objects and then link it to the OU. So we have GPOs are created in the group policy objects. GPOs are linked to OUs. Default domain or DP. Domain controllers. Okay. You can see in the image above that the three GPOs have been created. From those, the default domain policy or DP policy are linked to the THM local domain. The default domain controllers policy is linked to the domain controllers OU only. Something to have in mind is that the GPO will apply to the linked OU and any subs organizational units under it. So the sales organizational unit will be affected by the default domain policy. Let's examine the default domain policy to see what's inside a group policy organization. Is that what it is? Yeah, group policy objects. First tab, you'll see when selecting a group policy object shows the scope, which is where the GPO is linked in the Active Directory. For the current policy, we can see that it's only been linked to the THM local domain. As you can see, we could also apply security filtering to group policy objects so that they are only applied to specific users, computers under an organizational unit. By default, they will apply to the authenticated users group, which includes all user PCs. Settings tab. Okay, the settings tab includes the actual context of the group policy object and lets us know what specific configuration it applies. As stated before, each GPO has configurations that apply to computers only and configurations that apply to users only. In this case, the default domain policy only contains computer configurations. Okay, feel free to explore the GPO and expand on the available items using the show links on the right side. In this case, the default domain policy is in the case really basic configurations that should apply to most domains, including password and lockout policies. Yeah, let's check that. That's probably why it wasn't letting me change the password to just 123.123. Maybe the password policy on it. Let me check it out. Where can I find that? Security, maybe. Yeah. So, for passwords remembered, that's a lot. Maximum password age 42 days. Age 1 day. Minimum length is 7. Still password. So yeah, probably needed 7 as a minimum, but it probably required a little bit of complexity, which would be kind of like case sensitive letter, uppercase, lowercase, and numerical value. Okay, so this is GPO applies to the whole domain. Any change to it would affect all computers. Let's change the minimum password length policy to require users to have at least 10 characters in the passwords. To do this, right click on the GPO, select edit. So default domain policy, go to edit. Okay, let's open up a new window, yes, right here, where we can navigate and edit all the available configurations. Computer, configuration, policies, Windows settings, security settings. It's a lot of tabs. Account policies, password policy. Okay, that. That. GPO distribution. GPOs are distributed to the network by a network called sysvol, which is stored in the domain controller. All users in a domain should typically have access to the share over the network to sync their GPOs periodically. Excuse me. The sysball shares points by default to the directory on each of the domain controllers in a network. Once a change has been made to any of the group policy objects, it may take up to 2 hours for each computer to catch up. If you want to force any particular computer to sync its group policy object immediately, you can always run the following command. So gp update / force. Okay. GP policy, group policy. As part of our new job, it would have been tasked with implementing some GPOs, allow us to block non-IT users from accessing the control panel, make workstations and servers lock their screens automatically after 5 minutes of user input. Okay. Let's focus on each one of those and define what policies we should enable in each GPO and where they should be linked. Restrict access to the control panel. Okay, so we're gonna make a new file. Can I make action policy? Triggers as control panel. There it is. Control panel. Personalization. Let's see. Administrative or control. Hmm. Oh, okay. So this is kind of sub pages. This breaks it down for me. But how do I make one? Screen GPO called restrict control panel access. Oh, nothing to do but to the policy. Create DPO. Oh, Explain the domain. So the group policy is going to be let's keep going and see if I even need to. I'm gonna be stuck on this all day. Get back to actually it could be here. Oh, don't think so. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll give up on that one. Is it cryptology objects? It's there. Maybe I have to find it here, edit it here, and then drag it. Count. Okay. Let's just keep going. Okay, so auto lock screen GPO for the first GPO regarding screen locking for server. Workstations and servers, we could directly apply it over the workstations, servers, and the controllers organization used to created previously. This solution should work and automatic assist as you want the GPO to affect all our computers. Okay. Oh. Ah, we found it. Let's go back. Let's name it. What are we naming it? Oh, restrict control panel access. There we go. I'm opening it for editing. User configuration. Wow, this is a lot of branches. Definitely easy to get lost in. Security verification. Okay, let's close all that up. Yes. Mm, I gotta get back to that. So oh, interesting. Yeah. I got lost. Not even gonna lie to you. We're just gonna try and wrap this up real quick. Was the name of the network share and use GPO to the main machines? Hmm, what is it? It says vol. There we go. Authentication methods. Let's kind of get through this and see. Okay, so we're gonna read this through. When using Windows domain, all credentials are stored in domain controllers. Whenever a user tries to authenticate it to a service using domain credentials, the service will need to ask the main controller to verify they're correct or not. Two protocols can be used for network authentication in Windows domains. Kerberos used by any recent version of Windows, that is the default protocol in any recent domain. Okay, I've heard of Kerberos. Net NTLM, legacy authentication protocol, can for compatibility purposes. Mm, okay. Kerberos authentication is default authentication protocol for any recent version of Windows. Users who log into the service using Kerberos will be assigned tickets. Think of tickets as proof of previous authentication. Okay. Kind of like when you go to the market, grab a ticket, wait for them to call you. Users with tickets can present them a service to demonstrate they have already authenticated into the network before and therefore enabled to use it. Okay, so this is how it works. User sends the username and the timestamp is scripted as key and the password, key distribution center, KDC, usually installed on the main controller in charge of creating Kerberos tickets on the network. KDC will create and send back a ticketed grand ticket. That's funny. Which will allow the user to request additional tickets to access specific services. The need for a ticket to get more tickets may sound a bit weird, but it allows users to request service tickets without passing the credentials every time they want to connect to a service. So I guess kind of like a ticket master, and like you already have the ticket, and it just allows you to get in to where you need to get to. I guess I don't know. How would you describe that? Okay. Along with a ticket granting ticket, a session key is given to the user, which they will need to generate the following request. Notice that the TGT is encrypted using the server's TGT account password hash, and therefore the user can access contents. It is essential to know that the encrypted TGT includes a copy of the session key as part of its contents, and the KDC, which is the key distribution center, has no need to store the session key as it can recover a copy by decrypting it. Okay, so user hash, username, timestamp, request, ticket, to the main controller, user hash, the key gives it back. Okay. And the user wants to connect a service on the network like a share website or database. They will use the ticket gathering ticket to ask the Kerberos domain controller for a ticket granting service. Ticket granting services are tickets that allow connection to only the specific service they were created for. To request a ticket gathering service, ticket granting service, the user will send the username and a timestamp scripted with the session key, along with the ticket granting ticket. That's a lot of ticket granting ticket. Okay. To request a ticket granting service, the user will send their username and a timestamp encrypted service principal name, which indicates service and server name we intend to access. As a result, the KDC will send us a TGS. Okay. Kerberos domain controller will send us a ticket granting service along with a service session key, which we will need to authenticate to the service if we want access. The ticket granting service is encrypted using a key derived from the service owner hash. Service owner hash is the user or machine account that the server runs under. The ticket granting service contains a copy of the service session key on its encrypted contents so that the service owner can access it by decrypting the ticket granting service. Okay, it's a bit of a ticket granting service can then be sent to the service, authenticate, and establish a connection. The service will use configured account's password hash to decrypt the ticket granting service and validate the service session key. Net MOT authentication works using challenge response mechanism. Authenticate request, challenge response, and challenge response. Then it gets hashed, challenge, and then the response equals response. Allow the authentication. Okay. The current referring to Kerberos ticket granting server. Oh, yeah. What is this, like a typo? Is it? That's what I mean. Referring to Kerberos, what type of ticket allows us to further request tickets known as TGS ticket granting service? But it doesn't fit. System. Let's look at it. Let's see. Let's see. TGS would be right here, which is ticket granting service, but it doesn't. These ones connect to this language. Task case, service. And so tickets that allow connection to the service. TGS service session key along with TGT. So the KDC will send us a TGS service session key, which we have TGS encrypted service owner hash. Yeah, it is. Oh, wow. Guess it's not. That's so weird. That LM is right here, so the application would pass through a server. Oh, I guess it isn't pass over because server is not a network. Let's see. TG. I have no clue. I will have to come back to that because I'm just gonna look it up because I don't know if it's me or TryHackMe. Oh, but that's not even correct. What? What type of ticket allows us to further request further tickets known as TGS? Oh, okay. Maybe I misread that. I'm just giving out what TGS is rather than where the TGS actually comes from. Okay, so let's go for all this. So far, we have discussed how to manage. Let me close that. A single domain, the role of the domain controller, and how it joins computers, servers, and users. Okay, as companies grow, so their networks, having a single domain, form a company is good enough to start, but in time, some additional needs might push you to having more than one. Trees. Imagine, for example, that suddenly your company expands to a new country. You could change different laws, regulations that require you to update your GPOs to comply. In additional, you now have IT people in both countries, and each team needs to manage resources and correspond to each country without interfering with the other teams. While you could create a complex OU structure, use delegations to achieve this, having a huge AD structure might be hard to manage and prompt human errors. Luckily, AD supports integrating multiple domains that you can partition your network into units that can be managed independently. You have two domains that share the same namespace. An example, those domains can be joined to a tree. So we have TryHackMe local. If our local domain was split into two subdomains for UK and US branches, you can build a tree with a root domain of THM local and two subdomains called UK and US. Okay. Partition structure gives us better control over who can access that, what, and domain. The IT people from the UK will have their own domain controller that manages the UK resources only. For example, a United Kingdom user would not be able to manage US users. In that way, domain administrators of each branch will have complete control of the respective domain controllers, but not the other branch's domain controllers. Okay. Security is good. Okay. Forest. The domains that can also be configured in different namespaces. Suppose your company continues growing, and eventually acquires another company called MHT Inc. When both companies merge, you will probably have different domain trees from each company, each managed by its own IT department. The union of several trees with a different namespace is known as a forest. Okay. Tree. What should be configured between two domains for a user in domain A to access domain B? Cool. Let's see. Having multiple domains organized in trees and forests allows you to have a nice compartmentalized network in terms of management resources, but at a certain point, a user at TryHackMe UK might need to access a file shared on. Okay. So for this to happen, domains arranged in tree and forest are joined together by trust relationships. Simple terms, having trust relationships between domains allow you to authorize the user from domain the UK to access resources from MHTEU. The simplest trust relationship that can be established is a one-way trust relationship, and a one-way trust if domain A trusts domain B. This means that user on B can be authorized to access resources on A. Okay. And then there's a two-way trust, which I'm assuming works both ways. Conclusion. In this room, we have shown the basic concepts and related to Active Directories and Windows domain. Keep in mind that this room should only serve as an introduction to the basic concept. There's quite a bit more to explore and implement production ready and Active Directory environment. If you're interested in learning how to secure an Active Directory installation, be sure to check out the Active Directory hardening room on the other hand. Alright, let's complete the room. We're gonna end it here. So that was a lot of information. I can see how this could be not an entry level thing where it's very important. This is more probably like a help desk 2 type position because this is way too important to make mistakes on. So you definitely need somebody with experience on this. Any mistake could just cause so much chaos and disorganization. Just waiting for my badge here. What's going on? Hope I didn't get disconnected again. We're still okay. Alright, well, I guess no fireworks. We'll just wrap it up here. And that's it for day 1 of TryHackMe.